All right, guys. So the Democrats and the left-wing media are freaking out about the Supreme Court's decision regarding Arizona's discriminatory slash racist election laws. Okay, and the reason why is because this sets the precedent where it's going to be very, very hard moving forward in the future for the Democrats to roll back on the Republicans' election integrity laws on the basis that they are racist, right? And that they are a violation of the Voting Rights Act. And for them, again, that's a big deal because the whole Democrat conspiracy of voter suppression lies in the fact that the so-called racist Republicans, they want to discriminate and keep black, brown, they want to keep everybody from voting except white people. And Joy Reid was talking about this with her guest Elie Mystal, and this guy absolutely goes on a unhinged rant about the so-called racism of the Supreme Court in the law, and he does not back it up with any real facts or real logic. Actually, what he does is that he just perpetuates the idea that black people and everybody except white people are basically too stupid to vote correctly. Take a look.
In a 6-3 ruling written by Samuel Alito, the most reliably conservative justice, the Supreme Court dealt another violent blow against democracy by upholding two restrictive Arizona voting laws, forbidding the collection of absentee ballots by anyone other than family or caregivers, and allowing the tossing of ballots inadvertently cast in the wrong precinct. What's far more troubling is what this decision means for future cases before the courts. According to Alito, states can pretty much do whatever they want to suppress the vote, as long as they don't make it obvious.
To drop out some of the legal jargon here, Alito's standard is basically as long as you don't say the N-word when you are taking away people's votes, it is fine. That is the essential takeaway from his opinion. It was in Arizona that he just held up with the help of John Roberts, as you explained, his lifetime commitment to destroying this act. These laws were racist by empirical definition. That's not me having a conjecture. It was empirically shown that these laws had a disparate impact on black and brown and native voters in Arizona. The plaintiffs, the state of Arizona, admitted that these laws had a disparate impact and admitted that that's why they were there. Like, let's be clear. The Arizona said that the reason why they wanted these laws is to help them win elections by depressing the vote, right? And then the Supreme Court, in Alito's opinion, he says that for one of the laws that allowed them to discard ballots cast in the wrong precinct, Alito said that 1% of African Americans and 1% of Native Americans and 1% of Hispanic Americans cast their ballots in the wrong precinct, while only 0.5% of white Americans cast their vote in the wrong precinct. But that racism just wasn't enough. Wasn't enough racism to trigger the Voting Rights Act. It must be nice to have a job where you can tell other people how much racism is real. But that's the decision. That's the upshot here. As long as you don't make it completely obvious that you're doing something with bigotry in your heart, as if that was easy to prove, then Alito is going to let you do it.
All right, guys. So as you can see there, this guy, he's upset. He says that there's empirical evidence that Arizona election laws are racist and discriminatory. And then he goes on to say, and to back up his claim by saying, well, the Republicans, they want to throw out ballots that go to the wrong precinct because 1% of black voters, Hispanics, and Native Americans send their ballots to the wrong precinct, and only 0.5% of white people send their ballots to the wrong precinct. And the problem with this argument is that the state of Arizona, 54% of the population is white. They're white, right? 32% are Hispanic and 4% are black. So even if, let's say what you say is true, right? Let's take the numbers as they're true. If 0.5% of white people, right, their ballots are thrown out because they sent them to the wrong precinct, wouldn't that still impact more white people in general, much more white people than it would black or Hispanics? Just by sheer fact that there are more white people in Arizona. And see, this is what blows my mind about these arguments. He wants to focus on black people so much, But the black vote in Arizona don't matter. It don't matter. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? See, this is why they have to throw in black and brown. At first, everything was racist against black people. It was all about disenfranchising the black vote. In states where the black vote really don't matter, like Arizona, it's about black and brown. It's about black and brown. And it's like, bruh, again, what you're saying doesn't make sense because it impacts more white people, right? And don't white people vote Republican and Democrat? Aren't, by definition, them throwing out ballots that go to the wrong precincts, them throwing out Republican ballots as well? So again, how can you sit here and try to tell me that, oh, well, this is discriminatory, right? Just because there is a disproportionate impact does not mean that it's racist or discriminatory. There are disproportionate impacts on a lot of things in society, a lot of rules in society. But that doesn't make it racist by definition or the intent of being racist. Okay? Those are hard things to actually prove, right? And this guy right here, like I said, he looks like the dude from Ancient Aliens, right? The alien guy, right? The conspiracy guy. Because he look like he's a conspiracy guy. This is the conspiracy theory of the Democrat Party, the voter suppression conspiracy. Because that's all it is at this point. Because even the Biden administration, even Biden, he sent this letter, right? This letter to the court basically saying, hey, this law is not really discriminatory. We don't really agree with that. Okay, this is the letter. Even Biden was like, yo, this don't really violate the Voting Rights Act, right? In terms of intentional discrimination. But see, he fails to mention that. He don't want to say that because that's not convenient to his argument. It's not convenient. Alito, in his opinion, they outline how, yes, even though Arizona is implementing these laws that prevent ballot harvesting and throw out ballots sent to the wrong precincts, they still go out of their way to make sure everybody knows the rules of the game. They go out of their way to make sure they provide information on how to vote correctly and to follow the rules. They actually make it very easy to vote. What they're doing is not unusual. It's very normal, okay, in terms of how people vote and what people have to do to actually vote. Okay, that he outlined that. And it was the DNC's responsibility to prove otherwise. But they couldn't, right? Even using the so-called empirical evidence that this dude says he has, which is not really empirical evidence, right? To prove that, oh, the law is racist. That's not really how that works. But even with all that, it's like, bruh, everything impacts people differently. That don't mean it's racist. That don't mean it's a violation of the Voting Rights Act. Okay? Doesn't mean it's a violation of the Voting Rights Act. So, again, these guys, like I said, they're in conspiracy territory here. They can never provide real solid evidence as to why the GOP's voter integrity laws are racist. They just can't. They can't at all. Right? And guys, I mean, listen, the whole voting thing, right? The whole question about voting laws, Democrats versus Republicans on this issue, it really comes down to security versus convenience, right? What's the trade-off of the two? Okay? How convenient should voting be versus the security of voting? That's what it comes down to. Republicans tend to think that elections should be more secure, right? They care more about security and making sure that it's right. Democrats care more about just having as many people vote as possible. Okay, in the Democrats' world, what they ideally want, like I told you guys before, they would have a voting machine in everybody's house where you don't even have to lift a finger to vote. Okay, you don't have to get up, you don't have to go anywhere, you don't have to do anything to vote. Right? If the Democrats had their way, they would have a mind-reading machine. People could just think their vote, right? You could just think your vote. Okay, I want to vote Biden, right? That's what they want. Those are the type of things that they want, okay? This is why, in the Democrats for the People Act, they focus on things like voter registration, right? Trying to have people automatically registered at 16 because they want to make it so, again, people who are not interested in voting or otherwise would not vote, they just wanted to make it so easy that those people will vote regardless, right? They just want their votes regardless because they think that they're going to be Democrat votes, right? That's what they believe, right? I mean, and they have good reason to believe that because, you know, again, this is just fact here. I mean, most of the population, right, tend to lean more Democrat, right? They tend to lean more Democrat. So it's a numbers game for the Democrats. If they can get people who otherwise wouldn't vote anyways to go vote, right, even though they really don't want to vote, if they can just get them to vote, which is why they basically want to make it as convenient as possible, right, to vote, then that helps them. That helps them win. And they're going to accuse any people of racism if you say anything about, hey, you know what, maybe this is not the most secure process. Maybe, you know, we should have some laws in place to make sure that this is done in a lawful and orderly fashion. No, if you say that, you're racist. And again, kind of what this guy was implying when he was talking about how, 1% of black people send their ballots to the wrong precinct, Hispanic. Basically said these people are too stupid to vote. These people are so dumb. They're so incapable of doing things right that we have to hold their hand. The federal government has to hold their hand to make sure that they vote. That's what it's about. That's what it is. Instead of thinking that, you know what, black people should be smart enough to know the rules and to know how to vote and to make sure that their vote is counted, right? Black people should be smart enough to do that, in which I 100% believe that. That's why I'm not under the impression that these rules keep anybody from voting. Okay, because black people, I think they're smart enough. I think we're smart enough to learn the rules of the game and to vote regardless. Okay, now if the rules of the game encompass, you know, actual discrimination in terms of them saying black people can't vote, then yeah, that's a problem, right? Or them keeping black people voting or denying people access to voting just solely based off that color, then yeah, I mean, that's an issue. Okay. And even if there was a law that like really disproportionately affected black people, let's say 60-70%, right? Then yes, I would probably have some issues with that. But that little thing that he cited is BS. Because again, only 4% of the population is black. The black vote don't even matter that much. But outside of some local elections, it doesn't really matter. So what are you talking about? What are you talking about? And again, that's why I say it's a conspiracy. They never have anything solid. It's all emotions. It's all rhetoric. That's all it is. They just want to make it so, I mean, they basically really just want it so everybody just votes. They want everybody to vote. And in my opinion, I look at it like this. You know, I kind of take the Socrates approach to voting, right? If you're not smart enough to figure out the rules of the game, to figure out how to vote, to make sure your vote counts, then I don't know, you probably are not informed enough to be voting in the first place, right? You're probably not informed enough to be voting, okay? And that's just my opinion on that, right? But these guys don't see it that way. They think everybody should vote regardless of, you know, whatever, because they think that more votes equals more Democrats. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a black conservative perspective. Peace.